Welcome to case study number 2. We are going to model a tweezer. Before we get started, I'm just going to go to the add-on tab. I'm going to disable the machine tools because this is not a required add-on to use. So it's actually going to help you to model quicker and faster. But with this course, I'm going to show you without using this add-on, and you can definitely spend your time to explore how to use this add-on, and you can find some information in my bonus videos talking about this add-on. Okay, let's close this and get back to where we are. Next thing, when we're loading the reference image at the beginning, this time I'm just gonna pretty quickly to drag a photos and put in here and drop, so you don't really need to go to the Shift A to add an empty. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click this image icon, and then you can see we can change the opacity a little bit, dial it down, because when we put things in, when I start modeling, this thing can look through. Okay, next thing, Shift S to change the selection to the cursor. So what we do here, selection to cursor, we can move the things in center and hit G, Z, and just grab it all to the top. So this is kind of like a rough position. So G, X, move a little bit. I'm trying to center this anyway. So pretty much done over here, setting up the reference image. If you really want to see this clearly, you can actually change the opacity yourself. Look at this shape. If you ever see a makeup tweezer, you know this is not made by a cylinder. It's kind of flat. So we can start with a cube and kind of changing the shape around. A lot of times when you're looking for a reference image online, you probably won't have all different multiple angles of one single product. There are times you just need to use your professional judgment to really do things and on the side, making sure that it looks great. You can find different angles of tweezers yourself and to really understand how the thing looks. Another tool I often use is a free software. It's called PureRef, and if I'm dragging over here, basically you can just drag and drop your reference image into this software. There's a lot of tutorial stuff you can watch on the YouTube. I'm not gonna go inside of too much details on this, but this one is more like another canvas that like Blender offers. You can zoom in to infinities. You can put different images on there, so you can see from different angles. We can just see, oh, so this is what the tweezer looks like, and when we're building our own tweezers, we can build the shape accordingly on that. So that would be pretty convenient rather than just one single one on the side view. So what we can do here, we're just gonna model the side view, and then we'll start tweaking things around. So I'm going to put these reference image in my second monitors, and then when we actually start modeling these in the different side view, so we can drag this back to show you guys where I'm looking at it and how I model this. Okay, so let's get started. So for this one, I'm gonna start with a cube. Shift A, adding a cube, and just kind of scale it down in here and zoom in. Alt Z to kind of get that small views, and then get here, and we can certainly just easily just drag that arrow and come up, and then what we can do here, we're going to go to tab and just go to the edit mode and grab these. Okay, so I'm just gonna come out, hit GZ, grab it all the way up, and adding a loop cut. As you can see here, the top one actually is smaller, and also you notice there's an angle and tilted around this area. So what we can do here, we're going to go to a tool. So on the left hand side, we have a tool, it's called shear, and we are going to use this one. So I can click that. So you're going to select the top face and drag this up. And as you can see here, this kind of start tilting. And also what you can do, come back to the move tool and just scale it down a little bit, because we are going to have that thickness going on here, and the top angle is a little bit smaller. And you can just select these top two vertices and just drag them So next thing we're going to do is we're going to adding some loop cuts to getting the shape done properly. I know a lot of stuff that we can do just using a subsurface modifier, but the accurate you can model without it, and the better when you apply subsurface modifier later on. Control R, do a loop cut, and just select these two vertices and grab it. And I'm actually going to close that, the move tool, and then we're just gonna getting the general shape out of it. GX, just on the only one vertex, and these two, I think GX, just kind of close in a little bit, and then as you can see here, we're supposed to have a kind of like a bevel going on here. So what we'll do here, just going to do some minor adjustment, and then Control B to bevel it. You can just do a multiple, so I think 3 is fine because we're gonna add a subsurf modifier later on. Control B, bevel up, so we're just getting the shape very close to where we're at. And let's go down here, and then we need to kind of like widen this part, middle section. Control R to adding a loop cut, and hit S to scale up. It's a rough scale. It's not really super smooth, but you know, once we have a subsurf on, the magic is gonna happen. So we're gonna get these, and these two, what I usually do is I just gonna select all these four, this entire face, and hit G, Z, or Z, grab it, and then we are going to hit E, Z, and scale it down. And when you scale down, you don't just hit S, because you see everything is gone on the side. So what you're gonna do here, you're gonna hit the S and hit the X axis. So when you scale down, it actually do not reduce the thickness of this model right now. It just basically is only scale along the X axis. So this is kind of nice and neat. And then I'm just gonna scale down X in here. Next, we are going to adding a loop cut. Control R to adding a loop cut, and then right click when you release that. And then when you scale them, making sure you hit S and X to scale only on the X axis. Otherwise, the whole thing is gonna change. For example, if I hit Control R to adding loop cut, and just simply hit the S, and if you scale it up, right here, as you can see, we get an actual thickness going on here on this side. It's not really aligned to this one. So what we'll do here, we're just going to hit S, X. Okay. I'm gonna repeat that. Control R. Right click, S, X. Okay. One more. S, X. These should be fine. We are going to adding a subsurface modifier. So far from the side view, it looks fine, because you know, when we're doing the scale on the top, we didn't scale along x-axis, but it's okay because the tweezer usually have like a narrow thickness going on here. But so far from the side view, this looks very thick. So what I would do next, I can deselect the reference image and select the cube and hit S and along the y-axis, so I'm gonna make it a little bit thinner. Otherwise our tweezer is way too thick. So I think it's around this, it should be fine. Again, if you really wanted to have a precise modeling, you can definitely do that. You can take a look at it, how thick is one single side is supposed to be, like how many millimeters that you want to go, but I just gonna go with eyeballing right now. Okay, so that's kind of like the shape that we kind of build it on. And the next thing we're going to do, we're going to adding a subsurf modifier. This time I'm just going to hit the Control 2 to add one as quickly. If you go to the wrench icon, you will see all these. So let's see what we have here, and we probably need some modification on that. And then right click, shade smooth, and should be fine. But it looks like this angle, this area looks a little bit terrible for the geometry. So as you can see here, this entire loop, this is not a quad, this is a n-gong. So and same thing on this side. So what we can fix is here, we can just select these two vertices and hit J to join them to getting actually a cut in here. So another one we can do right here, so these two, and just hit J to join them. The rest of these are going to be all quads. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to do the same thing over here on the back side. So we're just gonna select these manually and hit J to fix this typologies from that. So it's pretty easy to quick fix. So you can get these things done. And now if we type things out, it looks very nice. I'm gonna close the reference image and it looks okay. For the top part, I think it should be a little bit narrower. And so what I will do here, I'm just gonna select all these, go to the top view and hit this S and the Y, just kind of getting that thickness going on here and get that done. And it should be good to go. Tap it out and this object mode. I think this looks okay. And let me see. I probably want to adding some loop cut to kind of support that, because this right now looks a little bit chubby, it looks a little bit too round. So what I can do here is I'm gonna go to the edit mode. Let's see what we can do. Control R and getting some loop cut to support that geometries. Control R. Well, you certainly don't need adding too much geometries for that. I just wanna getting some of that to support this. And another thing I would like to do is for the top view, what I would do is do one single big loop cut in the center, so you can actually control the bevel quite a bit. Control R, just one single big loop cut. You can see we're getting some shapes going on here. And what we can do is, if you really want to have sharp edges on there, you can do Control B to bevel the entire loop cut into a 3, so you can have some like a sharp edge on that. I know these looks like super small, these shadow details, but I'm telling you, these shadow details are gonna make your model looks much better, and when you do any close-up renders, it's gonna look very nice and neat. Okay, cool. So let's get these things done. So far, I'm just the purpose we're trying to building is as a grid, even grid. So I'm going to adding a couple loop cut in here. I think one should be good. Another one should be good. So this is one single side of the tweezers I think we just built. So the next thing I wanted to do is I'm gonna creating some curvatures on this one single tweezers, and to creating that functionalities. Otherwise, it stay closed. We will not be able to use as a tweezer. So gonna hit Tab to go to the edit mode. I'm gonna select one single loop cut and hit Alt Z to go to the extra mode and select this part and go to the side view. Next thing, I'm gonna enable proportional editing by hitting this icon, or you can hit the O key, and then we can choose what kind of fall off that shapes that we want to have. I think so far the smooth should be fine. And next thing, I'm gonna just hit the G and the Y axis, because I only want to grabbing along the Y axis. So, and also you can see here there's a big circle that on the screen. Well, this is the circle going to affect the transformation. I can scroll the middle wheels on the mouth. They can getting smaller or bigger. So basically what I'm trying to get is right here. Okay, and then for the tweezer side, and the top part is still is going to be a little bit open. So what I would do, I can actually just getting this top part, hit the G, Y again. It just opened up a tiny bit. Okay, not too much. Yes, so you will have some distance going on here. From side view, it still looks so fine, but if you want to see on the other end, well, it looks a little bit obvious. You see this is going to be a tweezer because it's opened up. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to creating a identical parts of this. And the good news is we don't need to do it again. We can just using a modifiers. It's called a mirror modifier. Let's go to the modifier, header mirror modifier, and you can see here we have a mirror modifier apply in here. So we're just gonna changing the axis. So because this is the y axis, so we're just gonna hit the y. So we have this kind of creating in here. And sometimes, a lot of times, people using the x-axis, it's just because we trying to building on each side from front view. Since I'm okay with the front view, I'm just gonna go to the side view to look at it, and it looks fine just using the y-axis. Okay, so you can certainly play around with these and to getting the good result you want. So right now, from what I see on the right side, I think this looks too wide on the middle part. So what I would do here, I'm gonna hold the tab key and select the middle loop, and I'm gonna continue kind of drag it back to the y-axis a little bit. And by this time, I'm gonna getting that a little bit smaller. Okay, on the side, so it should be fine. So far, I feels like this part is still too thick, and I'm just going to hit the S to scale it along the y-axis, and just gonna get a little bit narrower. Okay. So there's always a twisting and tweaking along when you're working around a model. So don't be afraid of that. You're gonna do these type of things along. Okay. So next thing. So these two parts need to be connected to each other. So what I would do, I'm gonna go to the edit mode and select this thing and hit the G, Y, and it's just gonna get a little bit closer to each other. You can touch these two. When you're rendering, that should be fine, and nobody really going to look detailed on that. So now, so far, we have a simple tweezer build inside Blender that you can definitely tweak a lot of things on the tweezer. You can add in a small detailed design like this. If I go to the edit mode, I can just to adding this loop cut and actually narrow it down along the y-axis to getting something like different shape in the result. You can certainly do something like that and make it a little bit cooler, and just that's your design choices. And but you got all the tools and all the procedures you do, and you can build something like this. One last thing, I wanted to build a cage around this. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do a Shift A to adding an empty, and adding an empty, and this time I'm going to choose empty. I'm gonna go with the cube, and now I'm just gonna hit the S to scale along the z-axis and grab it and move it up and scale down, just kind of roughly around the outline that the whole thing. Okay, that's kind of go SX from side view, SY, just kind of cover the entire thing. And now, as you can see here, if I'm click this, watch what's happening here, and holding the shift and click empty right here, you'll see the empty is a little bit kind of brighter or brighter yellow, and the outline of the cube is the reddish orange. And then if I hit Control P to parent, so we're just gonna parent this object to the empty. Okay, Control P, object, and do that. So you see the cube is disappear. It's actually not, it's just under the empty. So now we can do just say tweezer empty master, whatever you want to call it. So later on, what you gonna do here, whatever you do for the empty, so for example hit G, the tweezer is gonna go with it. And if you hit R, you can just rotate that. It's very simple and easy, and this is kind of a finished model that you build. So whenever you need to use to having this entire thing built in, you can just load in the entire collections. And this is just the reference image that we're using. This is everything I want to share in this video. I will see you in the next one.